Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much to the executive team for joining this explainer today. We are going to set the stage for deconstructing what is, honestly, an absolute masterclass in corporate strategy. We're looking at Starbucks, but definitely not through the usual lens of supply chains or coffee bean sourcing. Instead, we're zooming in on their absolute psychological mastery of the customer experience. Most customers don't even realize they're being psychologically influenced the second they walk through those doors. But for us, as leaders, we need to understand the exact mechanisms at play here. Let's look at exactly how they engineered an empire.
I want to start off by hooking your attention with a pretty crazy anomaly. Picture this: a customer happily handing over more than $5 for a simple cup of coffee. We're talking about a beverage made of roasted beans and water, right? Now imagine them doing it again tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. That is exactly what millions of people do at Starbucks every single day. We really need to challenge ourselves to consider this anomaly. How do you get millions of people to happily, willingly pay premium prices for what is fundamentally a basic daily commodity?
And that brings us to our central question. Why do we pay this every day? Why does the average consumer willingly open their wallet for this specific brand at this specific price point with such unwavering frequency? I really want to pose this question right at the top to prompt all of you on the management team to rethink our own customer retention strategies. Are we commanding this kind of daily, almost religious loyalty? And if we aren't, why not?
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's the exact strategic framework we'll systematically break down today. First, the billion-dollar coffee illusion. Then, mastering sensory marketing tactics. Third, designing the third place. Fourth, leveraging the IKEA effect. And finally, the ROI of emotional loyalty.
Starting with number 1. The billion-dollar coffee illusion.
Now, what's really fascinating here is the stark contrast between these two concepts. On the left, we've got the traditional business of selling coffee. Coffee is just a commodity. It's incredibly price-sensitive. If you're just selling coffee, you're competing on pennies. But listen, Starbucks never became a billion-dollar juggernaut by selling coffee alone. On the right, we see what they're actually selling: psychology, identity. When you successfully sell psychological alignment, your product practically becomes price-insensitive. They aren't competing with the local diner down the street. They are operating in an entirely different cognitive space. They've essentially mastered human behavior.
Which brings us to Section 2, Mastering Sensory Marketing Tactics.
The very moment a customer walks near a store, their brain is already reacting. You know that smell of coffee floating just outside the shop? Yeah, that is not accidental. Scientists have actually found that our sense of smell is deeply, deeply connected to memory and emotion. That intentional warm coffee aroma literally triggers feelings of comfort, relaxation, and energy inside the brain. This is sensory marketing at its absolute finest. Before the customer even touches the door handle, before they even glance at a menu or think about spending a single dime, their emotions are already subtly shifting. They're being perfectly primed for a comfortable experience.
And once they actually step inside the store, everything is meticulously designed to keep them there. Just look at these specific atmospheric choices: soft yellow lights, warm wooden interiors, comfortable plush chairs, calm, lo-fi music. Think about how starkly this differentiates the space from, say, a fast-paced fast food restaurant with those bright fluorescent lights and hard plastic seats. It doesn't feel like a transactional joint. It feels personal. It feels safe, It feels relaxing. Every single sensory input is a deliberate, calculated choice to manufacture a specific emotional state.
Let's look at how that environment functions in Section 3, Designing the Third Place. To really anchor this abstract concept, let's look at the definition. The third place is a space that is not home and it's not work. It is a familiar, neutral environment that people emotionally connect with. And honestly, it works like magic. Because of this strategic positioning, the space serves as a literal haven. You've got students spending hours studying there, freelancers working there all day long, couples going on first dates, friends meeting up to chat. Some people even just sit there entirely alone, just to feel productive in a communal space. They haven't just built a cafe, they've successfully engineered a community hub.
So, here is the absolutely crucial point for us: how this environmental design directly connects to business outcomes. It's not just about being welcoming, it's about revenue. It's quite simple. The longer customers stay inside to study, work, or socialize, the higher the chances they buy more drinks and food. By providing that comfort, they significantly increase dwell time. And dwell time? That translates directly to increased transactions. For us as executives, the massive lesson here is that customer comfort and environmental design are absolutely not overhead expenses. No way. They are direct, powerful revenue drivers.
Moving into our fourth principle, leveraging the IKEA effect. Let's move to and see how this builds the customer journey from a simple order to a feeling of deep, almost irrational personal ownership. First, you order the drink. Then, the company hands over endless options to customize it. Extra cream, less ice, oat milk, 3 pumps of vanilla, extra caramel drizzle. Why? Because as humans, we absolutely love control. Then, they ask for your name. Now, at first glance, it just sounds friendly, right? But there's a hidden psychological reason. When people hear or see their own name, their brain instantly pays more attention. It creates this immediate, personal, emotional connection. Suddenly, it's not just a random coffee, it belongs to you. This sequence brilliantly shifts the customer from a passive buyer to an active creator. Psychologists actually call this the IKEA effect. As defined here, it's a psychological principle where people value things much more when they help create them. Even if it's literally just changing the milk type or tweaking sugar levels, when customers customize their drink, their brain feels emotionally involved in its creation. That tiny, subtle psychological trick makes the whole experience feel incredibly special. And we all know special experiences create fiercely loyal customers. You are effectively tricking the human brain into valuing the product more simply by letting the customer have a hand in its final assembly. It's genius.
Finally, let's talk about the payoff in Section 5, the ROI of emotional loyalty.
Look at how they've mapped out an almost unbreakable customer routine here. In the morning, customers visit for their daily fix. The brain physically connects the brand with productivity and waking up. Coffee becomes an emotional dependency, and let me tell you, routines are extremely difficult to break. Then, in the afternoon, they might actually return just to work from that third place. Finally, in the evening, they're posting a picture of their aesthetic cup on social media. The brand seamlessly embeds itself into the entire life cycle of the customer's day, from a morning dependency all the way to evening free marketing.
So, here is what's really happening at the cash register. Once that deep emotional loyalty is established, through customization, through the environment, price basically stops mattering. That is exactly why they can charge substantially higher prices than your average, normal coffee shop. Customers aren't paying for coffee anymore. They're buying identity. They're buying status, comfort, routine, a whole lifestyle. When you elevate a simple product to become a symbol of a customer's personal lifestyle, you completely remove yourself from the traditional price wars of your industry. You're playing a totally different game.
And here is where it gets even smarter. They don't have to spend billions on traditional advertising like so many other companies do. Instead, they designed their actual brand to look visually attractive online. The iconic green logo, the clean, minimalist white cup, the highly aesthetic, colorful drinks. Literally everything is tailor-made for social media. Every single customer posting a cool, aesthetic picture of their instantly recognizable cup becomes a free marketing engine for the company. They've successfully turned every global customer into a free advertising asset, spreading a consistent, highly trusted brand image across the entire world. And this brilliantly illustrates our ultimate takeaway today. Once a brand controls emotions, it controls customer behavior. People go to this coffee shop when they're happy, when they're super stressed out, when they're feeling lonely, or when they just want a burst of motivation. The brand became deeply emotionally connected to the ups and downs of everyday life. They didn't become one of the most powerful brands on earth just because they had the best tasting coffee. They dominated the industry because they understood human psychology better than almost anyone else out there.
Which leaves us with this final, truly provocative thought for our own management team to chew on. I want you to look at your own brand, look at your own strategies, and ask yourself honestly, right now, are you just selling a product or are you selling an emotion? Because as we've clearly seen today, the businesses that scale to become billion-dollar empires aren't just fulfilling a basic physical need. They are architecting a profound emotional experience. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how we apply these psychological principles to our own work moving forward.